Hi, my name is Nicholas Weiss, and welcome to my presentation on the advancements of hydroponics as it becomes a modern solution to farming in non-traditional areas. So what is hydroponics? Hydroponics is the practice of growing plants without a soil medium. This practice was originally used to study what was required for plant growth to occur, whether it came down to mostly the nutrients, the soil, or the type of water or amount of water provided to the plants. Today, hydroponics is typically thought of as a hobby with little to no major applications in modern farming. This is starting to shift, as we'll talk about. However, today it's my goal to educate you to the contrary and show you why hydroponics is the future of farming in urban spaces. I view urban spaces as the most untapped potential of non-traditional farming spaces. So that'll be my primary focus for today. First, we need to talk about the different types of hydroponic farms. It's important to cover the three basic kinds of hydroponic farms and the major differences between them. The three kinds of hydroponic farms in order of relevance are hydroponic, aquaponic, and aeroponic. All three of these farms are used around the globe, but hydroponics remains the most popular due to its ease of use, and we'll talk about some of the quirks that go along with the other kinds. On the next couple slides, you're going to see a rendition of each of them and learn a little bit more about how they work. So this is a standard hydroponic farm. On the right, you can see a NFT system, or a nutrient film technique system, which is the most common type of hydroponic farm. The growth of the plants within the hydroponic system occur without a soil medium and are instead supported with a porous medium of some kind. The porous medium is usually made up of small porous clay pebbles, and they're the most popular. You can see a couple other different kinds. There's some, it kind of looks like dehydrated straw that is also used. Then nutrient solution is continuously run through the system to ensure that the plants get a constant supply of the necessary nutrients. You can see the nutrient pump down below, pumps up above. It's essentially a gravity-fed system. The next type is aquaponic farms. On the right again, you can see a simple rendition of an aquaponic farm. In this case though, you can see that we have some fun little additions. The growth of the plants are accompanied by the growth of fish living within the tank below them. The way that this functions is that the fish waste is actually converted into the food for the plants above. The plants above are nitrogenated first, treated with a nitrogen-based fertilizer or nutrient solution, as it's difficult for them to get that from the fish. But the fish waste then is cycled up through the system, and the plants actually function as a biotic filter for the waste of the fish, so that the water returned through the gravity system below is clean for the fish to continue living. This type of farm requires quite a bit of maintenance, as you need to make sure that the levels in between the top and the bottom are right, so that the fish can continue to grow and that the plants are continuing to grow and they aren't negatively affecting each other. Lastly is the aeroponic farm. On the right is a simple rendition of an aeroponic farm. As you can see, it's changed yet again. The growth of the plants within this system happens completely independently of any porous medium. Both hydroponic and aquaponic farms still use those pebbles, but in aeroponics, they're completely removed. The roots of the plant are supported through artificial means. Generally, the plants are fed through a small hole or held in place by some twine. There's all sorts of methods for keeping them artificially supported. Then, how do the plants grow? Well, the use of an atomizer from down below sprays the roots of the plants with the nutrient solution, allowing the nutrients to be absorbed directly through the roots in the system. This also requires a lot of maintaining. You need to make sure that the plant roots are consistently getting moistened with your nutrient solution. You need to make sure that none of the plants fall over and they're being properly supported. Again, lots of maintenance that goes into properly using a system like this. However, this type of hydroponic farm has the unique trait of allowing free-flowing gases in and around the root system. And due to the gas interface, the additional gas interface, this type of farm generally results in the quickest and fastest plant growth out of any of the hydroponic farm types. So where can the farms be used? Due to the modular nature of hydroponics, the technology is widely versatile and isn't really bound by the traditional rules of soil-based agriculture. This means that you find hydroponics in a wide variety of places all throughout the globe, pretty much anywhere that traditional agriculture can't or isn't practiced. The range of possibilities here is what makes hydroponics such a promising and alluring alternative to traditional agriculture. These next few slides, you're going to see some examples of hydroponic farms in unique places, but first we got to talk about zero acreage farming. This is kind of a buzzword term, but zero acreage farming is typically used to describe hydroponics that are put into urban spaces. This concept arose from the thought that repurposing already developed land doesn't add to the environmental impacts that typical soil-based agriculture has when you're siting and looking for real estate of farmable land. So following this, we're going to see some of those different forms that hydroponics can take in urban environments. The first big one that we got to talk about, and the one that some of you might have already been aware of, is rooftop hydroponics. This is the largest and most commercially successful non-traditional hydroponic farm. They're closed system or closed top. So think greenhouses, but placed on top of a building instead of out on a open space that could be used for soil-based farming. They function just like greenhouses in a lot of cases, with different controlled variables, temperature, humidity. But the great thing about rooftop hydroponic farms is that you remove the need for grow lights in a lot of cases, and the plants can grow with the natural sunlight. I'd be a bit remiss, however, if I didn't mention the other type of rooftop hydroponic farming, and that is open air hydroponic farms. These hydroponic farms, however, have one big downside, which is why you don't see them pretty much at all within North America, and they're very impacted by climate. Especially the north half of North America, we just don't have the kind of annual climate to support these open air farms and that with crops that might have longer grow or gestation periods. However, they're popular all over the world, particularly in Asian countries or the Philippines. And speaking about the Philippines, here's a fun little fact tidbit that I also ported to my lit review. Rooftop hydroponic farms have some great potential in urban centers. The urban center of Manila, for the Philippines capital, which features a very impressive population of nearly 20 million people, could be fed with 187,200 square meters of rooftop hydroponic farms. We'll just call it roughly 200,000 square meters there. I know we don't like to think in meters here in America, don't know why, but in terms that people can generally visualize a little bit better, that's roughly 9 football fields worth of hydroponic farms placed on top of these urban landscapes. However, they could also be placed indoors, which is what we'll be talking about next, with indoor hydroponics. This is the other type of hydroponic farms that you're going to find in urban environments. Traditional indoor hydroponics use a horizontal orientation of the planting, similar to kind of a planted garden. You know, if you just went outside and wanted to plant a couple rows of plants, or it could even be thought of traditional soil-based agriculture planting in rows, similar to that. This is the most popular form of hydroponics today due to the simplicity and ease of the management that comes with the design. Obviously, you're going to encounter some management issues with rooftop hydroponic farming, especially with the open air. The closed greenhouse design have less of those management issues. but still require a lot of human input on the daily. It's worth noting that the loss of the natural light from the rooftop models mean that you do generally need grow lights. Obviously, you could put them in an area with high sunlight, but you're going to need to supplement some of their growth within these indoor environments. However, the shift from horizontal to vertical hydroponic farms is a bit slow going, but it's starting to pick up some speed. This is the fastest growing type of hydroponic farms today, as people realize that there's less of a monopoly on their vertical space over their horizontal space. Just take a look at this blank wall behind me. It's not being used for anything. I haven't decorated it, but I can guarantee you that if I showed you around the room, that there's hardly a lick of horizontal space left. But if I could convert any of these open walls into a produce-based farm, that would be incredible. Vertical hydroponics was a huge focus of the research in my lit review. As I said, it's the fastest growing, so people want to know as much about it as quickly as they can to obviously determine if it's worth investing in or if it's going to become the premier kind of hydroponics. The benefits of vertical hydroponics over traditional hydroponics are just limited to space management either. It's been found that higher yield amounts per area for these vertical farms occurs, and this is mostly due to the ability for the farm to support more units of crop per area, just due to how it's spaced out. One study that I found estimated returned values as high as 14 times the growth and yield of crops in a vertical system compared to a traditional horizontal system. Obviously, this is only one study and very anecdotal, but if that could happen on a large scale, those are obviously some incredible production numbers just for a change in orientation in terms of your farming. It's also worth looking at non-urban areas and why hydroponics is also useful there. Hydroponics really makes a big impact on the future of agriculture, as it can answer the food security issues that a lot of generally underdeveloped, but not necessarily, countries face, or countries that have stressed environments face here in the near future. Some of those stressors could be poor quality or low water access, poor quality or low arable soil, and then topography, unfit for traditional farming. Obviously terrace farming, and there's all kinds of practices we've adapted over the times to try and fill that, but obviously we're going to still run out of space. You can only terraform a hill or a mountain so many times. On the right is a little pop-up greenhouse in Libya, which suffers from both the major agricultural stressors of poor quality and low arable soil listed above there. It's also worth noting that the largest untapped source of the non-traditional hydroponic real estate belongs in the urban setting. This is why I chose to focus on this for the majority of my lit review. And this is just due to the potential of the multi-use green space, as I mentioned before. If I could convert any of these walls into a hydroponic farm, I would love to. As you can see on the right, this is a very clear example of someone who went ahead and did that with their outdoor patio space. They managed to layer them on top of each other. They've grown quite a dense vegetable garden with many different varieties. And not only did they convert what was once a completely unused space into something practical, it really didn't take up all that much space. So they could probably add several more of these in their outdoor space. It's also worth talking about a couple of the additional benefits of hydroponics, and emission savings is a huge one. On the right is a table that I have drawn for my lit review, in which Taylor and a team of experts sought to quantify the reduction in CO2 savings per unit of food. This was on an annual basis. Clearly you can see that the reduction in the transportation chain and the impact it has on CO2 emissions is huge, particularly when it comes to air freight. Keep in mind that this is also just the reduction from one type of crop, lettuce, which is commonly mass transported and mass produced. So think about the benefits that you could get from transport reduction through different crop types. Obviously, not all the crops are transported together. You could cut out many, many, many different supply chains and definitely reduce the amount of fossil fuels that are being used here in this case, which we'll get to. It's also worth noting that the emission reduction really cannot be stated enough. If one city was able to fully convert to getting its produce from hydroponics, they'd be able to remove it from the larger supply chain. This would give it lots of closed loops where the city would purely be responsible for transporting the food, the fresh food, I guess, in between itself. And this would very clearly reduce the carbon footprint of the city, making it a lot more sustainable as we near our tipping point here with our emissions. However, there's a catch. I did allude to that there at the very end of the emissions slide. Unfortunately, hydroponics has one large downside when it comes to the reduction in emissions, and that's the system's reliance on electricity. Green energy currently only makes up roughly 11% of the United States energy production, which leaves a large percentage to non-renewable resources, which is not good for hydroponics, as the majority of the hydroponic energy that you're getting to run the systems isn't coming from a clean source. So the emissions that you make up for in transportation reduction are being made up for in energy use. Obviously, this limitation does hamper the effectiveness that hydroponics has on sustainability, but it serves as an incredibly valuable link back to the potential agriculture has to run off of sustainable energy, and really should not be a slept-on reason, and just a slept-on the potential for agriculture to run off of these clean energy. So a little bit of a wrap-up. Why hydroponics? Well, not only does hydroponics allow for farming within traditionally unfarmable regions, it also provides an outlet for unused space within urban environments. Hydroponics also helps reduce carbon emissions in the transport chain of food to its target destination. Why have to worry about transporting the food hundreds of miles away when it can either be grown in your place of residence or, down the street? As the humans shift away from traditional farming methods, in an attempt to reduce our impact on the environment and increase our sustainability, hydroponics is really going to help supply a gateway to sustainable and convenient food production no matter where you are on the globe. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope I inspired at least some of you to go out and do your own research and come to your own conclusions about the future of agriculture and clearly the prominent place that hydroponics is guaranteed to have within it. Thank you.